Well, I was christened in this church in 1929. It was a real friendly church. It looked a whole lot like the first Christian church right north of the Allen Fire Station. Built a whole lot like that. And you had to go up about 20 steps to get into the church. It was just a big wooden building. A good day at church then was 25 people. My father was always, I guess, had a vision of having a bigger church. And he suggested that we get off of that downtown and come out in the country somewhere. And we came out here in the country and bought this land way out in the country. And then, of course, from then on, it's been another educational building and then the sanctuary. It was difficult, but we didn't have drives as such, but we just had a meeting at church. Everybody came and they'd say, "Are you willing to give more money?" And that's the way we did it.
All right. On behalf of the whole church, I ask you, do you renounce the spiritual forces?
The growth here is phenomenal, and I think that it is growing so fast because it's such a loving atmosphere. When we're here, it just is family.
Even though I've always grown up going to church, I just felt something different here. And it's exciting to see it growing so fast. It creates some issues about where to put people. So it's now a challenge to place them here and keep them here.
The great thing about this church is that it doesn't seem large. I think that's one thing that really attracted us, especially with me being from such a small town. That it's big, but it doesn't seem big. And, you know, it's sad for me to hear the stories about the old church downtown, and I can just imagine what it must have looked like. I'm sure it was beautiful and all the stained glass windows and all the history, but I can see that they had to do what they did. And again, we're going to have to make changes. Our Sunday school class is the largest adult Sunday school class in the church. This morning, not even everyone was there, and it was wall to wall, and it was absolutely packed.
In this facility are wonderful people, and we've run out of room. Some of the Sunday school classes, the 3s, the 4s, the kindergartners, sometimes they have 20, 25 kids in a class, and there's just not room.
We'll get 17 2-year-olds in one classroom because we don't have another classroom to put them in, and you know, 2-year-olds are bouncing off the walls and the rooms aren't that big, and so we're bursting at the seams, and that's a good thing, but it's also a stressful thing that they can't have more room and more area to work with children.
There's not enough room for all the ministry that this church has to offer. And I think that if it's almost kind of like the Field of Dreams thing, if we build it, people are going to come here because we already have a need for it. And so I think the building's very important. And I'm really excited about seeing growth in this church because I think that there will be a place, particularly for youth, to have a lot more going on. I think in this community, if the youth had a place to come, that they would come.
Definitely. If we had a basketball gym or a facility like that with volleyball nets and stuff like that, that would definitely lead more of the people who've been missing out on youth and what all we've done. If you were to hear about a basketball gym that we had, well shoot, that'd pull in just that many more people who enjoy that. Then they'd learn that they really do like, you know, singing and worshiping, because I've never heard of a case where somebody just absolutely does not like singing and learning about God.
Right now, we are not able to have our luncheons here at the church very often because we have to share that fellowship hall space with the Play Day. They have their lunch in there every day. And they're very cooperative. We work things out fine, but we try not to invade on their lunch hour very often.
I've been out there sometimes when you just see cars circling, waiting, like when you're at the mall at Christmas time and you can't find a parking space, and you just kind of drive around until you see somebody pulling out. And you know, we've often parked out in the grass because there was nowhere else to park,
And I know that sometimes that people drive into the parking lot when the parking lot is full, and they might drive around 2 or 3 times and there's not a place for them. They get back out on Greenville and go somewhere else or go home, and that shouldn't happen.
More people aren't going to be able to come here to enjoy this, to be a part of this, if the building itself doesn't become bigger.
We're in phase 1 now, and that is the sanctuary that we currently worship in. The phase 2, which is what this stewardship program is about, involves a 2-story educational building, an expansion of about 140 seats in the sanctuary, including improved sound and lighting. It includes 150 new parking places and a fellowship area that will be about twice the size of our existing fellowship area. And then phase 3 would give us more education area and a new administration area, and phase 4 would be the final build out, completing the Christian Life Center, giving us our memorial gardens, and totally completing the building.
We're excited about being a part of that, and whatever it ends up being is what God's going to want it to be. Whatever size this church becomes is what God's going to want to serve His community, and if it gets to be huge, that's going to be great. If it gets to be a little bit bigger than it is, that's great too, and we're excited about being a part of the next step in that.
When we first started coming to this church 15 years ago, somebody had been here before us and had participated in a capital campaign that built the building that we were worshiping in at that time. And it's our turn to do something, to leave something for those that come after us.
Ted and I are committed to support the Capital Funds campaign financially. And quite frankly, we were looking forward to me not being in seminary anymore, because that is a huge financial outlay. We had counted that money this year because my last tuition payment was last week. We will make arrangements to pay some more tuition, but it will go to this church instead of to SMU.
I would want to challenge every member not to decide on their own what they're going to give, but to stop and to pray and to ask God to guide their decision making. In my own personal life, I stopped and I prayed, and I can tell you it made a difference. It made an important difference, not only in the amount that I gave, but the attitude in which I've given my commitment to this campaign.
I think that all decisions in our life need to first be prayed about. But I really believe, if no other time in your life, that this is a time that you should pray and allow yourself to be led by the Holy Spirit.
This church has, throughout its history, grown. It outgrew a spot before. A fire burned down the building. They rebuilt and outgrew that spot and moved. We've outgrown our facilities here, and the growth will continue because God has called it to happen, I believe. There's something too good here not to share. And every single one of us can look in our neighborhood, look in our circle of friends, and know a family that needs the church. And are we going to be willing to make a spot for them?